The man accused of setting off explosives in New York and New Jersey last month made his first court appearance Thursday. Ahmad Khan Rahimi appeared via video link from his hospital bed. He is still recovering from wounds sustained in a shootout with police. Rahimi is charged with weapons violations and 5 counts of attempted murder of a police officer. He pled not guilty to all 5 New Jersey state charges of attempted murder. CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reed is in Washington. So, Paula, what happens next in this case?
Elaine, Mr. Rahimi has many more court appearances in his very near future. Today, as you noted, he was arraigned on state charges, that is shooting at police officers and also some weapons offenses. But he also has a federal prosecution, a federal case where he is actually charged with the bombing. He faces a charge of using a weapon of mass destruction. That's the same charge that we saw in the Boston Marathon bombing prosecution. And so the federal case, that will be the primary prosecution. That case will really decide if he's guilty, if he goes to jail, and if so, for how long. Now, if something goes terribly wrong with the federal prosecution, they also have the state case as a backup. It's very common. We saw this in the Boston Marathon. We saw this with Dylan Roof. It's very common to have both a state and a federal prosecution, but always the federal prosecution takes precedence.
Paula, what are sources telling you about his health and his ability to cooperate with law enforcement?
As we saw today in this hearing, his breathing tube has actually been removed at this point. About 3 weeks now, he's had that in. It's been removed. This is a man who was shot between 8 and 10 times, but we are told he is expected to make a full recovery. At this point, he's communicating with law enforcement through nods. For example, when they asked him, was the placement of the bombs random? He nodded yes. They also asked him if he acted alone. He nodded no.
So, are there any other suspects at this point?
There are no other suspects at this point, but they're taking a very close look at the family, specifically his sister, and how a video of him detonating a pipe bomb in his backyard wound up on her phone. Rahimi wasn't using a personal phone. He was using burner phones. So they're really taking a close look at that. But Elaine, we've seen in other terrorism prosecutions, specifically in San Bernardino and the Boston Marathon case, where they've taken a very close look at family members and ultimately decided not to file any charges. So just because they're taking a close look at the family doesn't mean that anyone is expected to be charged.
And Paula, what about the men who took that suitcase?
Those men are currently in Egypt. They have been interviewed by Egyptian intelligence officials. They have not, however, been interviewed by U.S. law enforcement. We're told that that suitcase that they picked up with the bomb in it, that has been discarded. It's unfortunate because U.S. law enforcement officials were hoping to get their hands on that suitcase as a key piece of evidence in this case. Now, their employer has rerouted their work route, so they're not expected to come back to the U.S. with Egyptian Airlines at this time. But you can bet, Elaine, if they do come back to the U.S., that the system will be flagged and U.S. law enforcement will be waiting for them at the end of the jet bridge.
And Paula, lastly, what kind of sentence could Rahimi face if he's found guilty?
On the federal charges, that use of a weapon of mass destruction, you could potentially have a life sentence. Because thankfully no one died in this case. It's not a death penalty case like what we saw in Boston. Again, if something goes terribly wrong with the federal prosecution and they use the state case as a backup, if he's convicted, he could face decades in prison.
All right, Paula Reed in Washington for us. Paula, thank you.